Okay, when we open up TopoGun, first thing that we need to do is we need to bring in a reference mesh. If we click File, we can go to Load Reference Mesh, load up our game model that we had ready in Blender. When it opens, we're going to see a few things. I don't care to see a lot of this other information, so one of the things we're going to do is on Reference Mesh, we're going to unselect everything except Show Frame, Wireframe. The goal here is to create quads. This mesh actually is pretty much quads that have been triangulated. So we can go through and build it pretty easily. You'll notice that when I rotate, it doesn't keep the area that I'm working on in view. So one of the things that we want to do is we want to go ahead and get started and then get it framed up. Most of the tools in the interface here we're not going to be using. So keep in mind that although the program looks complicated, it's actually fairly simple, at least the way we're going to be using it. This plus button right here will create a mesh. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. We want to create a mesh on top of this game model. So if we click this plus, that's going to open up our toolbar. Don't worry about a lot of these options. Some of this stuff we might use later, but for right now, we're going to keep it really simple. At the top of the toolbar, you can see we have the Edit tool. Underneath the Edit tool, we have the Create tool. Mostly, we're going to use these two and possibly either the Bridge or maybe the Extrude. But that's it, just a few tools. So to get started, if we right click, we automatically go to Create. If we right click again, we go back into Edit. That's pretty much how we're going to bounce back and forth. So the first thing we need to do is just get a polygon down here, and then that way we can frame it up and it'll be easier to work. So we right click to get into edit mode. The placement of the points is not critical, just get them close. And you saw that turn red when I went over that last dot. That means it's going to merge those two together. Be very careful because it's still going to build from this selected dot. So if you right click, then that takes you out of that mode. And then you can see that now we've created a polygon. We want to make sure faces is turned on. We want to select that polygon. After we select that polygon, then we can go View, Frame Selected, or hit F. Now that we've frame selected, you can see that it rotates around that area that we've started creating polygons. You'll see here that we have a few triangles. I'm not going to worry too much about those for right now. We will just put them in. But the reason why I say you have to worry about having too many triangles, and also sometimes the placement of the triangles, is because depending on which application you're going to send this to, it can create a problem. If you're going to go into Fusion and you're going to convert this into a T-spline model, it will definitely create a problem if you have too many triangles, or if you have triangles in the wrong position. We'll talk about that more later, but for right now, try to keep the triangles to a minimum. So if we go back into Create and we mouse over, you notice it turns red. That means it's going to merge with that vertex. Now we can go through and we can create our next polygon. Let's go again, create this triangle. Now, another thing I was talking about was some of the other tools. If we click here, let's just go up to, let's go up that far. So, actually we'll go one more. Then we can come over to this side and just start working our way down. Now you notice that none of this filled in with the polygon. Well, the reason for that is because you need a quad. So if you go to the bridge tool, you notice that it'll automatically try to connect them for you. And you just click whenever the red bar is in the right spot. If you right click, then it takes you back to your selection tool, right click again, and you're back into the create tool. Now, there you can see that I messed up. So if I right click, I highlight this and I hold down control, when I get close to a vertex, it'll turn red. If I then let go of the left mouse button, it will merge. So now you can see that that all merged together. So if I go through now and I select everything, and I go over here to the Modify tab and scroll down a little bit, you can see we have Snap to Reference Verts. If I click that, it's going to automatically align everything to the verts on the reference mesh. This is why I said you don't have to be perfect when you're placing down your points. So if we continue on, we'll use the bridge tool again. You can see it makes pretty quick work of it. This is one of the reasons why I like Topo Gun so much. It's just fast and it's easy. A lot of these peaks and dips in the mesh, what happens here is if they have a high resolution mesh and then they decimate it into a low resolution mesh, each one of these points will fall on the surface of that high resolution mesh. This is great for us because when we turn around and put a subdivision surface modifier on it, it's going to smooth this out and it's going to look more like what they had for a high resolution mesh. It's kind of an easy way to reverse engineer what they had. In this case, because this is not something that we're going to sell, this is just something for personal use, we want to just 3D print it, that's fine. In reality though, if it's something that you're trying to make for someone else or something like that, you probably should create it yourself. But I wanted to keep this simple for people that just don't know how to go about this process, but they have a 3D printer and they want to use it. They want to start printing cool stuff. This is an easy way to do it. Now you noticed I left them triangles because whenever this is smooth surface divided, it's going to end up running into this triangle, which will then split down the middle and it will all become quads. So I'm not going to worry a whole lot about that. I'm not completely sure how I want to do this part yet, so for right now, we'll just create it like that. I know I'm going to need to separate things for up here, but one of these will probably end up getting split into a triangle. I just need to kind of figure out which one. We'll have to deal with those spikes on the head later. For right now, we're pretty much just going to be going up to this point and doing the brow. Now, one of the issues that we're going to run into with what I just did, because there's no vertex or vertices underneath where I just made those. So if I go through here and I select everything, and then I go to snap to reference verts, you're going to see that that created a problem right here. So I think what I'm going to do in this case is just snap those like that. So now that I've created those, let's go ahead and try to snap everything to the reference mesh and see how everything goes from there. If everything goes okay, then we can keep going. Everything looks alright, so we're going to go back into edit mode. We're going to follow this all the way up. Now we've created those spots there. Now we're going to take a look up underneath the brow. See what we can do with this. You can see that we have a quad on the upper eye right here. So let's go ahead and add that in. We have a quad right here. So we'll get that added in. This tricky little area right here. We'll go ahead and we'll put the eye in. Now you'll notice here that it's kind of bright on this face, and that's because the face is inside out. If we go to modify and reverse normals, then it darkens up like the rest of them, and we're good to go. So that all looks good. There's a tricky area right here. Now you can see that that created a weird polygon, so I'm going to have to make sure that those are triangles right there. Now another way to notice whether or not faces are flipped inside out is if you select everything and you have back faces turned on, everything should turn orange that you've done. If it doesn't turn orange, then the face is inside out. So basically all we're going to do is finish up this part of the face, then we're going to export that out, then we're actually going to take a look at it in Blender and make sure that everything looks okay before we go too far. So if I come in here, I can just finish this up. Go to the bridge tool. Now you'll notice that sometimes it won't bridge the way you want it to. If that happens, just switch back to your edit tool and you can add it back in manually. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is select everything, align it, snap to the reference verts. Once that's done, then you go up here to File, and then you're going to export mesh. Once you export the mesh, then you can open it up inside of Blender and take a look at it.